Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Kim Bagayawa, and it's a joy to have you here. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Diana Stobo, the renowned wellness author and founder of the Retreat Costa Rica luxury wellness resort and spa. In this episode, we're diving into a very special celebration, the 8th anniversary of the retreat. We discuss the journey, Diana's perspective on the healing process, and some of her favorite guest transformation stories over the years. I hope you enjoy the conversation. There's always so many things that I would love to ask you about. But today, what we can get through is your vision after 8 years with the Retreat Costa Rica. Yeah.
Well, let's start with the 8-year question.
Okay.
And what my intention was. Well, first of all, it's been 10 years. The reopening was 8 years ago, and because the intention did change, and it evolved, I should say. So when I started building, it was a lifelong dream to have a retreat center. When I got there, I really didn't know what I was doing. I was still teaching people how to heal their bodies through food. I was coaching, life coaching, spirit coaching. I was teaching Kundalini. I was working on a very high astral plane to heal people who needed me. I had an amazing following. I was at that time doing TV. I was doing infomercials. I was all about recipe development. And I thought, I need a brick and mortar place where I can bring these people to spend time learning everything that I have been teaching, because I know it's healing people and it's effective and it works. And so where can they go? Because otherwise I'm going to be sitting on my computer the rest of my life, coaching people through Zoom. And that didn't feel good for me, because you have to touch it sometimes. So I built this center thinking it was going to be a little bit more rustic, a little bit more. My vision was we were going to get our hands in the dirt. We were going to get our hands in nature. But what evolved was the land started calling out something different. And so as I was building it, things started to shift and change. And even the design of the buildings started to shift and change to incorporate nature into the buildings, to make everything clean and white. And I started to look at life as a blank canvas and a reset, so that when people came to the retreat, they had just this beautiful blank canvas for them to paint the life that they wished for themselves. And we called it heaven on earth, which was it wasn't really a joke. I mean, it's overused, of course, but the clouds would come in, and as far as you could see would always be white. And that's such a mystical time. And that happens in the summer months. People call it green season, but green season is such a magical time for us. We really don't have a down season, because it's so beautiful. And I thought, God, isn't this cool? You're literally walking in heaven. And what does heaven look like for you? And that started to evolve. It was also a retreat center that people came and brought retreats. And then I realized that retreats should not be June 7th to June 14th.
Yeah.
Retreat should be whenever you need it. A 24/7, 365 days a year. When you need to retreat, you have a place to go, a place to call home that makes you feel safe. It makes you feel comfortable, cozy, and that you can release all that ails you. And so that was the next step. And so when we relaunched 8 years ago and reopened, we were opening as a hotel. Now, that was a beautiful shift for me, because I went from, hey, a $10,000 a month nugget that I had to support the hotel, with the electrical and the staffs that came in and all that, to $60,000 to $100,000 a month. That was, overtaking my entire being. And I was like, okay, so we really need to get some occupancy in here. How do we do that? And so, then there was marketing, and I thought, what do people need? What do they want? It's no longer lose 10 pounds in 10 days, which was the premise of my marketing for my book, Get Naked Fast. It became, what do people really need? Do they need emotional support? Do they need a cleanse? Do they need it? So that's where all the packages started to come together. Is each time we saw a need that was happening in the world, as a trend, let's call it, we created a package that supported that ailment. You can see that the emotional support came out of COVID. people who were locked up, and they felt that they had no community and they were completely alienated from their family and actually society in some ways, had a place to go and kind of regroup and heal and feel whole and feel connected. And that was what came out of that. The sleeping came out of people who were just worn out. And I hear it time and time again. I don't sleep, I don't sleep, I don't sleep. And as soon as they get to the retreat, I don't know if it's the bed, I don't know if it's the bedding, I don't know if it's the crystals, I don't know if it's nature and the fresh breeze, I don't know what it is, but people on day one sleep like a baby. And so we're like, we need to nurture that part because, sleeping is regenerative, and we need that time to process and detox not just the things that we have in our foods or whatever, but detox our mind and our emotions. So each element came out of a reason that was cumulative from basically a universal call. So it has evolved, it has changed. Now as we expand, we're bringing in more community spaces. Mm-hmm. So we're building 10 more rooms. We're calling our Santosha is going to be our clubhouse, a gathering space where people can go, and we'll have more community events happening, where people come together in classes or programs. So it's an evolutionary process, honestly. Mm-hmm. And remember, I only had 9 rooms when I opened. And so when I had 9 rooms, I'll never forget this. I went down to Argentina, and this guy who was a suave Argentinian who took me out for a lovely steak. And he said, so he had 6 hotels. He said, so how long are you going to do this hobby of yours? I was like, what? And he said, 9 rooms is a hobby, 12 rooms is a business. And snap, 12 rooms. I made it happen. I didn't know anything. I just wanted to heal people. I didn't want a business. The business part became a necessity when I was having a monthly nugget of $60,000 to $100,000. I was like, I can't sustain this. And, along the way, I thought that I was going to sell it, because I'm like, I built this cool place. It's sitting on a mountain. I got to get rid of it. I can't afford to do this anymore. I'm going to go bankrupt. And it was hustling on the other side here in the United States to make business so I could pay for that. And I was like, I was worn out. And so I went to go look for a buyer, and I had no business. I had no revenue. I had no real, stability in my business to sell it. So I went to this healing wellness summit. And afterwards they had a program where they take you to different areas so you can explore other hotels, especially new ones. And this particular one was Chablais in the Yucatan, and there was 80 acres, and they had these villas. And so we had gone to get a massage, and the spa was gorgeous. We only had a 2-room massage. We only had 2-room spa, and it was just for massages and facials. That was it. And I went in, and they had this whole experience going on. And you sat out on a little deck, and you looked out on the cenote, and they scrubbed your feet while you're looking out in the cenote, and then you go to get your massage. And afterwards, Enrique looked at me and he said, all I could think about that entire massage was the view of the cenote. He says, it really put me in my body, because I was just in this cenote. And I said, that's it. Instead of selling, we're building. So I went back and I bought more land, and I started building the spa. And as you know, every single spa room has an open door with a view of nature. And so I learn wherever I go what is inspiring, what's magical, what's necessary to bring it to a higher level. And it's one promise that I've made to all my businesses, is to keep evolving and bringing it. I don't want to get stagnant, because science is always changing. We are always changing. The universe is always shifting and changing. And so I want the retreat to always be that to the people who need. They're in need. And you know what? People are desperately in need. And that's the truth. They want a place that they can feel safe to explore themselves and the world around them, and their health and their bodies and their minds. So, we do what we can. I will say that, and if I'm getting off track, go ahead and introduce another question. The other thing that is hard is that uh well, gosh, I got completely lost there, but let's stick with this one. People don't know what they need. And that is the beauty of that blank canvas visual, is that people don't know, they just know that they're not content. And so when you are landing on a place that's unobstructed by things, and all the crystal energy brings the to the surface what we need to heal, it allows them to discover their next step. And so that's why we have such a high return rate, because people were like, I just tapped the surface of my evolution, my change, my growth, my experience. And so we have to keep giving them more and more and more opportunities to grow and heal. And we listen, we pay attention to every TripAdvisor review. We look at every response carefully, and we shift and change depending on, I mean, there's certain things like people are like, I want a coffee machine in my room. And I'm like, see, I'm fighting that. No, we actually
Yeah.
we'll get a 1-star review because we don't have coffee machines, and people actually have to walk from the room to the restaurant. And so let me just tell you why. A, we need community. And there's a community coffee section, and I know you've seen it, where everybody comes and they commune. And that's when the conversations happen. That's when everybody opens up and starts to receive a little bit. Now, not everybody wants to talk, and that's okay. But we should. We get literally so stuck in. I mean, I know when I travel, if I have a coffee machine, I'll get up in the morning and I will drink my coffee and just sit there and get on my computer. That's not what the retreat is about. Oh, we don't have televisions in the room.
Mhm.
We don't have phones in the room. So we just don't want electronics in the room to distract. I don't want you going back to your room and sitting and watching TV. You can do that at home.
Mhm.
I want you to explore nature, express yourself, find different ways. The other complaint that we do get, and it's going to be interesting because as we build on the mountain, this is going to be worse, but it was purposely done, is, we're on a mountain and the property's here and some of the rooms are down below. And people go, I have to walk all the way, which is no,
Right.
all the way, that whole 500 feet to the restaurant to get dinner, and they don't have room service. Well, first of all, we do have room service, but we're not a room service place. We're chef's choice. And if you feel like you want to eat in your room, you just request it. Not a big deal. But no, there's no room service menu because it's all a package of what healing is. And so people don't understand that. And they say, we're going to walk. I want you to walk, because moving your body in gentle ways all day long is the key to longevity. And so if you want a tram or you want to be picked up because you can't walk 500 feet uphill, we can
Mhm.
do that too. But, it's really a meet you where you are approach, but it's designed purposely for people to walk, to get to the spa, to get to the restaurant, to get to their room, to get on a hike. It's all purposely done that way. And
I
so
think
when
that's,
people, yeah,
I mean, that's kind of what I am learning and love about the retreat, but having, given the time to get to know you a little bit better, learn from you, learn about what the retreat is all about, that
intentional.
your intention, your whys are so strong. Like really every single touch point, there is intentionality behind it. And it's all in service of people healing. I think it's so fascinating. And to know that your vision is this ever evolving vision, like it feels so expansive.
Even as we're building right now, it's down below, it's down another level. And so, we kind of grappled, how do people get from the room to the spa easily? And so I kind of had this long pathway designed against the mountaintop. And then we had an argument about, it was a discussion, not an argument, about what about people who are going to complain about that hike? Because they will, because it's going to be straight uphill and it's going to be, wavering back and forth. People are like, I can't believe I have to walk all that way. So we decided, and believe me, this is like months and months of deliberation to find a solution that works. And one day it just hits me. I'm like, you know what? we're getting car service to Santosha. And so anybody can get down to the not car service, but golf cart service. And the hike from the room to the spa is going to be straight up, and it's going to be stone, and there's going to be 4 or 5 sitting areas, and it's going to be an intentional workout for those people who want to do the muscle building or the runs, or
Hmm.
because that increase, because there are people who come and they want to work out like mad dogs, and then there's people who don't want to move at all.
Wow.
And so we have to offer that solution. And that actually gives the people who want a richer physical experience to, do stairs, to
Hmm.
hike to their thing, to come down. And people can still come down. They just don't like going up.
Hmm. Yes, of course. But I also love how you're thinking about how do you build it into the environment so that it feels like it was always there.
Well, and that is a really beautiful. And so I think this is a really good word. And I know that's going to be old eventually because, anytime we start using a word worldwide, it becomes so yesterday, right? Transformation's old, evolution's old. It's like, we're okay, what now? And, and the what now is regenerative. And we are a regenerative property, and I think that's really important that people understand that everything we do is done through permaculture and to preserve the land. even
Mhm.
even the expense that I bared myself to buy the mountain, to make sure that nobody would come in and infect it with buildings and toxic waste or whatever they're doing. We work very carefully to not disrupt the land. And on top of that, we're planting trees that align with the fauna, brings in the fauna and the
Mhm.
flora, and expands and expands. When I bought that mountain, it was almost bare. And it,
Wow.
it has reseeded itself so many times that now we have animals living, we have families of animals living there that come, that they weren't there before. We have brought a new ecosystem to the property, um, on purpose, maybe not on purpose. I mean, I think it was really about probably design,
Mhm.
and making sure that everything was pure. And then it sort of evolved into, I mean, it was sustainable to begin, and then it said it sort of in permaculture, but it sort of evolved into this regenerative land development, which I couldn't be more proud of. In
Mhm.
fact, my partner Enrique does all the building. And because he grew up in the jungle and literally grew up on 300 acres in Costa Rica, he understands the plants, the animals, the roots, the herbs, the water flow, everything. And he builds accordingly. In fact, right now when we're building, we're actually elevating all the building so it doesn't even touch the land, so it doesn't change or erode the structure of the mountain.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like you've touched on a couple of things already, but can you chat more specifically about the 8 pillars of the retreat? What are the 8 pillars?
Oh gosh, you're quizzing me here. Do we have 8 pillars?
Apparently, this is what Janettis gave me. And I was like, well, I'll ask her. She'll always just say, well, just ask her about it.
Well, I mean, I think that I don't know what the 8 pillars are. I'm thinking about
If not,
our,
it's okay too.
our ethos is to, eat from nature,
Mhm.
drink spring water, sleep well, and let that shit go. I mean,
Love that.
I don't know. I'm not sure what the 8 pillars are, but I could probably create. Uh, I could probably
Forget
create.
about the 8 pillars. Those four just nailed it. Let that shit go.
I mean, I think what's unique, and again, I'm coming off this podcast, which is kind of interesting to see how each property is developed.
Yeah.
And there's 3 different properties, and we were talking about women's health, and one was very medicinal, run by a doctor, and I thought that was very interesting. She had your basic information that you would get: eat protein, eat this, did a sleep, blah, blah. And then there was someone from the Golden Door who actually was talking about community and women coming together and how that enriches, and it was beautiful. And then there was the esoteric. Of course, Diana always has to come in with some esoteric, thing that nobody can really grasp, which was about how we change from the doing to a more somatic approach to our healing, which is a softer way. And there are no rights or wrongs, and it's really about uh, letting go and surrendering and accepting where we are in life. And I think that once we get to this place of self-love and acceptance, all the healing starts to occur. And but the question is, how do we get there? And
Mhm.
that is why we drip it slowly. It's not something you can't come to the retreat for 7 days and heal 57 years of suffering and trauma and pain and self-loathing. It takes it's a nugget, it's a planting, it's a seed, and we water it, and then they come back and they add another seed, and then they create over time. Each time they come, they create a garden of beautiful uh, of life that they are creating for themselves. And so it's a drip. And I know that because I experienced it. The reason I wanted to do a retreat is because I was a spa junkie. And every time I went, I gathered something and it
Mhm.
stuck with me. It became ingrained in my DNA. The more times it's like practice, you just have to keep practicing. 7 days at the retreat, you go home, you go into reentry. And by the way, reentry is really, really tough, because if you're living this life and you're like, I am feeling me, I remember me, I am connected to my soul right now. I know what it feels like to want to be alive and live this on this planet and enjoy. And then you go home and it's like, Mom, you know, get
Yeah.
my laundry done. And you got phone calls and you're like, I can't even unpack. And I'm like, it's re-entry and it really hits you hard. It's even like when you go on a cleanse, and if you've ever eliminated coffee from your diet or eat just had juices or plant-based foods, and then the cleanse is done and you integrate food back into your diet, and you're drinking a cup or two of coffee a day and you're like, yeah, I need it to get up, I got to get going and blah blah blah, got to jam up my frontal lobe and spark it. And then you go on this cleanse for 7 days, and then all of a sudden you have coffee again. It's like putting rocket fuel in a VW bug. And you're like, what? Is this what coffee does to me? How come I didn't know that? Because we were used to it. So you go, okay, well, that's fine. You do it again, you go on a cleanse, and then the next time you do it, you're like, you know what, I might do decaf. Or I might, and then eventually you might eliminate it. So it's little by little by little by little. And people need to know they have a safe place to go to gather that information so that they can integrate little baby steps into their
Mhm.
daily life. So then their life becomes a giant retreat. And that's where the healing really, really happens when they get home and they're able to sit in who they are and sit what they've accomplished and be able to still function in their day-to-day life without bringing all the chaos and drama and
Right.
overload of work and toxicity into their aura.
That's such a powerful message. And I feel like it's something that we don't really hear enough, maybe in the wellness realm. Like, again, I'm certainly not that well versed in wellness, but I do find that it could be either prescriptive, just do this, and this, but this message that it's kind of its own discipline to rest and to surrender is a really different kind of a message. And it just
Yeah.
seems as though the retreat, as you say before, that it's not all going to happen and heal in those 7 days. It's more of a, like, I guess, a catalyst to
Yep.
deeper things happening. And, you come back again and learn and come back again and reintegrate. That's such a different viewpoint than, say, you do this thing once and it's like solved for good. Like everyone just wants the one and done, and off you go to do the next and to do the next and to do the next.
So remind me to go back to your prescription analogy because I like that. But I want to address our body has muscle memory, right? Like if you've worked out your whole life and you haven't worked out for 3 years and you're turning into flab and you go to the gym, your body goes, oh, I know. Ha! Within a couple weeks, you're back in shape. Okay, we have memory. Um, it's the same thing with feeling good. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So when you go to a place that makes you feel so good and so aligned with who you are, you go back and you're integrated back into life. You go, oh shit, I don't like this. You have that memory. And the more times you do it, you can access that memory. I'll use it as another thing. People who were born heavy and have been heavy since childhood don't know what it feels like to be lean and clean, because I look at lean not as a um, how someone I don't look at someone and go, oh, you're skinny, you must be, you're so cute. I look at them and go, they have really cleaned their system. They've really leaned out. They've gotten rid of the excess. Okay. So if you don't know what it feels like not to carry a huge backpack of rocks
Mm.
on your body, you won't ever be able to access that. So in order to access that memory, that desire, that intention, you have to be able to feel it. Now we can do a little bit of, inner work and say, okay, let's imagine, what would it feel like to you to feel lean? Like, what would it feel like to not have all that extra weight on you? What is it? And talk about it. Okay. That's a memory. Now you're creating a solid intention, which leads me to your prescription. If somebody tells you, eat this, work out, da, 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 then you're not learning anything. You're not accessing it. You're literally on
Mm.
a program that once you're off of it, you're lost. So how do we access feeling good? How do we take that information farther so that we can say, God, I don't feel good today. Okay, wait, what does it feel like to feel good? And then your mind is so powerful that as soon as you access it in your mind, your body starts to follow. And what happens is, for example, we'll go to food because that's my expertise, is you say, gosh, whatever. I had a bad weekend. I went out, had wine, had some steak, ate bread, butter, all the delicious things that, we go out to eat for, because someone else is serving us. And then on Sunday night, you're like, wow, okay, I'm not feeling very good. I definitely feel the counter effects of that. So let's go into my mind and say, what does it feel like to have all this, my lymphatic system flowing properly and me having energy? And then boom, you go to your kitchen, you want to eat sprouts. You're like, I don't even want to do that anymore. You start having tea. Your body just goes, nope, nope. Because
Mhm.
if you touch that, you'll get burned. If you touch the fire, you'll get burned. Pavlov's dog, right? We learn and we learn and we learn. We need to bring homeostasis, a new homeostasis into our body so we can access it. And that
Mhm.
is why we go away. Because if you're living at home and you've got a certain environment that you're living in, you need to retreat. And retreat is taking yourself out of your norm into a place where you can escape, right? We retreat. It's like at war,
Mhm.
the soldiers have to retreat in order to regain composure and get their strength back. And so they retreat. It's the same thing. You go on a retreat to kind of regain your homeostasis, and then you can bring it back home.
Wow. No, I'm just absorbing that one because it's so true. I feel like someone had mentioned a book about this, that, a fellow who, was maybe 200 and something pounds and whatnot, and was really like, okay, I have to shift my thinking around this. What does a 150-pound man do? Let's
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
and it is so interesting to just emphasize that idea that what you think and where you shift your thoughts, that your body will follow. And
Yeah.
you'll start making choices to align with that.
Right. And the problem with the internet, let's just say what it is. The internet is, we have so much conflicting information hitting us, and
Mm.
we look at it and we trust it. And so if we Google, what should I eat to lose? And then all of a sudden 25 different supplements come up. Or what should I
Right.
do to exercise? And then you go to YouTube and you watch a couple, it's like, that is prescriptive. That's just like putting a Band-Aid on a wound. The healing is deeper, and it's about actually experiencing it, feeling it, acknowledging what it feels like to feel good, and then taking that into your daily life.
Mm-hmm. So over these last couple of years, I mean, obviously there have been so many people who've come to the retreat and experienced this catalyst.
Yes.
What would you say? I mean, I'm sure that there's many, but one of your favorite guest experiences after, 10 years that you've been offering this to the world that just really sticks out in your mind as being extra special?
So, before I opened a retreat, I coached a lot of people back to health, blah, blah, blah. I already told you that. And one of them, who was a client of mine who lost a lot of weight and just kind of, ended up changing her life completely, her business, everything. And I had a retreat where it was a Diana Stobo retreat. I don't do them anymore. I probably should. I could. I just haven't signed in up for any. Um, and they came in, and it was kind of a 5-day process of uh, eating healthy, but also going through all the processes. Like we did a cleanse day, we did an eating day, and then it was about finding your inner child and expressing. It was just all laid out. And came in, and she was taking care of her husband at home, and she had been living off of chips and fried chicken, and and she was sort of stoic and no, nope, 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 nope. She was so anti everything. So I expressed, day one, told her this is what we're going to do, and blah, 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 blah. And she was like, we'll see, we'll see. And the food would come, and she'd be like, hmm, hmm. Okay. I said, well, tomorrow we're going to do, okay, well, we'll see. And then the third day, I said, what we're going to do today. And she goes, okay, okay. There was no more, we'll see. She's like, oh, all right. So we ended up going to the waterfall. And the whole idea of the waterfall was to express your inner child. So you go to the top of the waterfall, and then you jump off. And it's like a 20-foot drop into these crystal beautiful waters. And so whenever I do a retreat, I will lead them there, and we'll do our thing. Well, was constipated. She was hot. She was not going to do this at all. We had other women there, of course, and then they were all doing it. And out of the corner of our eye, we saw sitting there with her jeans on in the heat of Costa Rica, her sweater, and she just took off all her clothes on the rocks, and she marched herself up to the top of the cliff, and she we're like, what is going on? And she jumps into the crystal waters. Child inside of her just expressing herself with so much glee and so much joy. And then all of a sudden she comes up from the water, and the look of panic came over her face, and she started doing this. So Enrique swan dives in like Tarzan, saving the day, scoops her up, takes her to the side of the cliff of the waterfall, and she says, I was so excited, I forgot I can't swim. And I looked at my friend and I said, we got to get her back. She's going to shit her pants. And sure enough, she got up from the water, and she goes, I've got to go to the bathroom. All that stuff she was holding
Oh my God.
had to come out. So we took her to the bathroom, and she let it go. It was such a beautiful story. And her shift was huge. Her shift was huge. In 5 days, her pants were falling off of her. She found her inner child and her joy again. Her face changed completely. Like it was beyond anything you could ever imagine. I mean, the joy that came out of this woman, and she couldn't wait to get home and start integrating what she had learned. And I thought, man, she was a tough nugget. I didn't think she'd survive this, but she really came out the other end. And I love that story about her. And she was just such a joy.
Thank you for that. That's not what I was expecting at all.
But there are many. I mean, there's so many. There was one woman, and she had come, and she was dark, like unhappy. These blue eyes that you would never saw. She was covered in bumps and like acne. It was weird. And she just looked unhappy and miserable. Kind of didn't want to even approach her. And this is earlier on, so I was there more often. So I really integrated a lot with a guest. And one day I was doing readings, cards, that I have this coaching game that I do. And sometimes I'll just walk around the restaurant and say, do you guys want to do a reading? And so I said, would you like to do a reading? And she goes, yeah, sure. So we laid out the cards. She had an intention and a question, and we laid out the cards, and it was so profound. She was in tears, just bawling. She had just nurtured her father on his deathbed until he died, and he had just passed. Big family and a lot of dysfunction, and a lot of, the older cultures are really dependent on the women as caregivers. And there was a lot of, old world thinking that was going on, that she was trying to, and she still even believes in all that. But whatever happened in that reading, opened her up a little bit and gave her a little perspective on life. And 5 days later, her eyes were so crystal blue, her skin cleared up, and she was radiantly beautiful. I looked at her, I said, wait, do you, like, seriously, I thought maybe she had a twin sister that I had missed. It wasn't the same person. And I looked into her eyes, and she's funny because she works in the travel industry, and she comes back, and it's her home. She's like, I got to come home. I got to come home. I need to come home. This is my space. And she says, it's kind of embarrassing for me because I promise I never go to the same place twice, but I've been here 11 times. She goes, do you guys think I'm weird? And I'm like, are you kidding me? We're so happy to see you. You belong here. And she brings people over and over and over again. I've got 100 and thousands of stories like this, but those are the ones that really, from the early years, that really stood out, and happy for that. We want to make change. I had a woman who just texted me on Instagram and found and this happens a lot, so it's not unusual, but this one I actually engaged with. I don't know why. For some reason, she called to me and I got on a phone call with her. She's like, I just came back from the retreat. My whole life just changed and I need more. How can I help you? She goes, I'm a tech girl. I can tell you your website needs some help. And I'm da, 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 da. And I said, well, let's get on a phone call. We got on a phone call, and it ended up being, a therapy session for her, which I ended up guiding her to some people who could help her to crack the seal. But she got a taste of what her life could look like, and she wanted more. And it was, I mean, like I said, I get this, I get probably 5 texts a day. I got people sending, I'm like, I don't even know who they are. And they're saying, I'm here at the retreat right now. And I'm like, I recognize the name, but your account's private, so I can't even figure out who your face is. But they're like, wow, and we're already signed up for next year. So it's transformative on a grand scale. And that is not about me, and it's not even about my staff. It's about them. It's about them having a safe place to go where they can be all that they want to be. They can paint their white canvas any color they want it and create a world that they want for themselves. And everybody's world is different. Everybody's world is different. So, I mean, you just never know what's going to be that entry point to someone's experience, their life-changing experience. And that's why the retreat has so many different modalities of healing. It may be food, it may be meditation, it may be a treatment, it may be the women's workshop that one of the Dr. Juvie put together. I think the woman who just contacted me, she's like, I was dragged kicking and screaming to this self-love workshop that another guest was like, come on, it's free, let's go. And they sat down, and she said she cried profusely. She couldn't stop crying, and it was out of control. And she's like, it was then that I knew I needed to make a change. So we don't know what's going to be the trigger for them to make that change. We want to provide all levels. And of course, you have your random outlier who goes, I don't like walking upstairs. and I couldn't order a burger, and there was no phones or TV in my room. I'm like, well, you don't belong here then.
In one of the previous messages that you sent me, you had talked about how one of the bigger visions that you had was bringing the retreat to other parts of the world. Can you talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah, it's so important to stabilize what you have, and it's know what you are and don't try to be everything to everybody, right? That's important. And I know that the retreat itself is it's all the healing based in nature. That's what we are. And I don't want to change that. That's why the Ayurveda program is so important there. But I'm working on building something at the beach, and that is going to be a little bit more intense, different intense. It's kind of like the retreat is a meet you where you are approach. So there's not a lot of thought, and you just feel better, and you don't even know why. Even if you don't sign up for a program and you just go there for the immersive wellness, you're like, wow, this is life changing. But I want to make it more intentional, and the land speaks to you. It kind of tells you what you're going to do. So depending on where I pick the land, but I want to do it a little bit deeper into the emotional healing aspects, trauma release. I think that's really important, and I think we underestimate how many layers of ancestral trauma we have, and letting that go is so important for our healing, and our longevity, to be
Mhm.
honest. But then where do we go? Once we stamp out two in Costa Rica, then we have really established ourselves as not a one-off, but a hotel that is intentionally healing the planet. And then we can start looking at other locations. But it's really about establishing yourself and know who you
Mhm.
are. And I think a lot of people lose track of their brand. It's funny, we're trying to rebrand right now, and to get our message out. And I was going to hire someone, and I thought, I really know who we are. I just need to be able to express it. And, you're working on so many angles
Mhm.
at the retreat at all times that you can't really focus on this part. So I think everything seems to be, kind of stabilized. And now I can focus on the message. And once you
Mhm.
focus on your message and you become the message, then everything just kind of you know who you are. Everything falls into place. And
Mhm.
so, you know, I know so much. I know so little about so much. You know what I mean? I know every modality of healing. I don't know every, but I know a heck of a lot. And they're not all there at the retreat. I'm not able to bring them there because of whatever the rules and regulations of Costa Rica, or the lack of healers or accessibility to people who have that knowledge and things that they can do. So I have to stamp it out around the world because,
Mhm.
requirements in Italy will be very different than the requirements in Costa Rica. What I can do in Portugal and Spain is way more than I can do in Costa Rica. Depending.
Mhm.
Bali, if we stamped it out in Bali, what would it look like? And then it becomes available to people all over the world, and also a way to travel and feel safe. It's like, if you're a Four
Yeah.
Seasons junkie, then you're going to travel to the Four Seasons, no matter where they are. You're like, I'm going to go to
Right.
Hawaii, but I'm staying at the Four Seasons. I'm going to go to Singapore, but I'm staying at the Four Seasons. I'm going to go to Italy, staying at the Four Seasons, because I know what to expect, because I
Mhm.
know their brand, I know their quality, and I know what they're doing. And that's what the retreat is about. Is that we're going to stamp out a quality of our messaging and our branding that people love so much. We're going to stamp that out. We just have to be really clear and tight. And that's what it's taken, 10 years to develop.
That is fantastic. Oh my goodness. I mean, I cannot wait. Already seeing everything that's happening. Yeah, it's unbelievable, really. Well, thank you so much, Diana. It was such a huge pleasure speaking with you today.
You're
And
welcome.
as always, it's we just I learned so much wisdom from you. And honestly, what a gift it is to just spend this time together. So thank you. Thank you so much.
So, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Kim Bagayawa. This podcast was produced by the Essential Hotelier for the Retreat Costa Rica. You can learn more about the Retreat Costa Rica Wellness Resort and Spa by visiting their website, theretreatcostarica.com. See you next time.